Okay, picking up where we left off on page 114, we're talking about the 4 different ways of doing sum and all the rest of the other kind of functions that are kind of cool. Now, just to make things a little easier, I'm just going to grab this column here, okay, and I'm going to copy it and paste it several times. So I'm just going to hit copy, and I'm going to go to the top and hit paste, and go to the top and hit paste, go to the top and hit paste, go to the top and hit paste. I just want to be able to have lots of these things we can play with. Okay, so now this was the sum function. So we're going to do the exact same thing with count. Now there isn't really, this auto sum thing, exactly the same way. I could light this guy up and go here. Instead of just hitting this button, I can go and say I want to count the numbers. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do it by hand. All right, so here I'm going to say count. And then once again, I don't like typing right. By the way, can you start at the bottom and go up? Does that work? Yep. In other words, you don't have to start. So there's 25 of those guys. Okay, cool. How about average? Type the word average. Light these guys up. Close the parentheses. But don't. Average is 82.5. Let's do max. Light these guys up. Notice I'm being careful not to collect the row 1 because there's no numbers there. And let's do min. Min. Okay, so these aren't labeled, so it's kind of hard to hear. Let me just go ahead and put it across here. I'm just going to say the word sum. This is count. This is average. This is max. This is min. Okay, so now you know what each one of those things are. Okay, now these are all functions. Let's just look at them one more time. And I'm going to click on here so I can see the formula in the formula bar. So, sum I2 to I26. Count J2 to J26. Average K2 to K26. L to L. M to N. Okay, kind of cool. So it all just, it varies by the name of the function that we're doing. And then the cell row, obviously the range of cells is different. But they don't have to be different. In fact, let's do this again. I'll tell you what we're going to do. I'm gonna light this up, and I'm gonna hit. Remember the thing we had about clear content? Make it all go away. Okay. This time I'm gonna do them all side by side. So I'm gonna do sum. Okay. Then I'm gonna do average. Underneath that, I'm going to do count. And then min. And then max. Okay. So I'm going to take this as a starting point. So I want to copy and paste this formula. Can I do that? Well, it's a little weird, but I'm going to go to the formula bar and do Control C. We'll go down to here. No, it's a little weird. When I copied this into my paste buffer, the machine is trying to help me, and see how it's all lit up. So I had to hit the escape key to tell it no, and I hit here and I do paste, and I hit here and do paste, hit here and do paste, hit here and do paste. Okay, so what I've basically done is just copied that same formula over and over again. So now I'm just going to edit the formula. So instead of sum, this is going to be average. And this one's going to be count. And this one's going to be min, return. And this one's going to be max and return. Okay. Just an easier way of doing it. Okay. So there's not that much difference in, sum, average, count, min, and max. They're the exact same technique. The only thing is, here when we had the cool little guy for the keyboard shortcut, there really isn't a keyboard shortcut for average, count, min, and max. Okay, sorry. There is one for sum, but not for the others. Okay, so instead of having, you have 3 ways to do sum, but only 2 ways of doing this guy, or 2.5, depending on how you count. All right. Next thing we're going to talk about, which is a little weird, it talks about totals in tables. So in page 117, we're going to be talking about filtering data and what's called the subtotal function. Okay. So first of all, how to filter data. Well, you have to turn on filtering. I know it sounds a little weird, but just bear with me. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some data and I'm going to highlight the area that I'm trying to do. And this time this is weird, this time I am going to include the heading across the top. All right? And then over here is a thing called sort and filter. And so I hit this guy, and what is it you want? Well, I want a filter. Okay? So I hit this guy. Now all it did was put a goofy little down arrow thing. That's all it did. Okay? Which is kind of weird when you think about it. Now what this allowed me to do is to go in there and change things in my document. Like when I click on this little down arrow, it's going to show me all of the data. Okay? Let's say I want to, and it sorted it. Now it sorted it here in this list. It's not sorted here. Okay? We haven't got sorting yet. That's another chapter. But let's say, for example, I wanted to take out the lowest score and the highest score. Like I'm going to be doing grading. I'm going to be rounding off and doing, grading on the curve. So I'm going to take the lowest score and the highest score. Okay. Now before I hit the button, in fact, I'm going to hit cancel. So right now, the average is an 82.5. Okay. So I'm going to go here and hey, somebody write this down. 82.5 and 2061. Let's just tell you what. Let's just concentrate on the 2061.5. I'm going to go here. I'm going to take out the lowest score and the highest score and hit the button, and then go back, and it's still 2061.5. So my filtering was more like a visual filter, and you can have some kind of hint there. I mean, if you look at the highlighting here, first of all, the rows are all lit. Well, it's kind of hard to tell. Let me click over here. You can barely make out, if you zoom in, there's kind of some thick lines between the 9 and the 11. You kind of see that? This little guy's a tiny bit thicker. I mean, not much. I'll grant it's very, very subtle difference. Right there and right there. Not much there. But if you have a very sharp eye, you can tell that there's some data that's missing. What you can tell is that the columns are blue. Not the columns, the rows. The row numbers are in blue. And the blue means there's a filter in effect. Okay? That's a clear way to know. Now, immediately, to find out which ones are missing, you're going to have to practically have a magnifying glass to find out which one is missing. But blue tells you something's going on. Okay. But, however, it did not change the sum. So, that's a good thing, right? I mean, I visually make things go away, but the math behind the scenes stays the same. Okay? Well, what if that's not what you wanted? What if you wanted the sum, for example, to change with the filter? Okay? This is how it's done, and it's a little weird. Okay? It's called the subtotal function. This is one of those strange functions that are kind of odd. So I'm going to go here, and actually, I'll tell you what, before we do that, I'm going to unfilter. By the way, too, you can see this the filter looks like a funnel, and then there's a little down arrow telling me that I actually have things filtered. I'm going to go here and just say select all, so to make the blue thing go away, so it looks normal. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to go here and I'm going to add me a subtotal function. This is a very strange function. I'm going to do it by hand. So I'm going to, instead of typing sum, I'm going to type subtotal. Now this one, if I hit the right parentheses, this one is a little weird, okay? It takes a code inside here to tell it which one of the functions you're talking about. Average, count, min, max, blah, 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 blah. And without going into a great deal of detail, I need code 109. Now I can just type 109, that would work. Or I could pick it off this list, which is a little weird because it's down at the bottom. And 109 means sum. So I'm just going to double click on this guy to make it, come in. Look, if I didn't know it was 109, this would make a little bit of sense. And then a comma. And now I have to do the very same range of rows we did before. Okay, so I'm going to grab this because I don't like typing, remember? I grab this, then go up to here and close the parentheses off. Okay. Whew. All right, so I'm going to type this one. This is called subtotal. So right now, subtotal and sum are absolutely the same. Why? Because they're supposed to be the same. Now, let's go to the filter, and I'm going to take off the lowest one and the highest one. Hit the OK button and look down here, and ooh, the sum remained the same. The subtotal did not. Okay, it changed. So this subtotal thing allows you, if you want it, to make it so that filtered data gets calculated differently. And let's say I was interested in the new average, okay? So I'm going to go down here. I'm not sure how you want to, I'm going to call it like filtered average. How's that for a name? Because I don't know what the heck you call that thing. You do the exact same thing. It's still subtotal. There's no such thing as sub average or something weird. So it's still subtotal, okay? But remember this list, okay? I want 101 for the average, comma, and then I'm going to do this over again, light up the range, close it off, hit the button. And so, made practically no difference in the I'm going to change this back to, practically no change in the average. That's kind of odd. I wouldn't have thought that. Anyway, so what's the difference between total and subtotal? Well, if there's no filtering going on, there is no difference between total and subtotal. If there is filtering going on, subtotal is going to honor the filtering, and total, or I said total, I really meant sum. Sum is not going to honor the filtering. It's going to give you the same answer no matter what, if filtering is turned on or not. Subtotal is going to honor the filter. Okay. Whew. That's some good stuff. Play around with that subtotal. A lot of people get a little stunned by this. It takes a little bit of practice, so I'd recommend you actually do some of the practice in here. Okay, the next section on page 120 is about doing math. Okay, and now we've done math, but we did math on using functions, okay? Which means the built-in thing, I didn't have to tell it how to calculate the average, where you sum up all the numbers and divide by the numbers, right? I didn't have to tell it that. It's all just built in. So we're going to do our own now. So if I'll go over here and I'll type in, 42, and go over here and type in 12, cool. And I want to subtract the two numbers. Well, what function is there? No, there's no need for a function. We're going to just do the math ourselves. Now, remember we talked about that when you create a function or a formula, that it starts with an equal sign. So I'm going to find me a spot, like right here, and I want to subtract the two numbers. So I hit equals. All right, now here it's just like what you learned, algebra that you learned in high school. I could type in the cell reference, except I'm lazy. So I'm just going to click on the cell reference. So that way it typed in the L30 for me. And I'm going to hit the minus sign because I'm doing subtraction, right? And then I'm going to click on the next guy, which means the contents of L30, which is 42, minus the contents of L31, which is 12. And so I'm just going to hit the return key, and doink, it produced the correct value. So the difference between 42 and 12 is 30. Hooray! So we've done math. Okay, this is a good place to start for the 15-minute mark. We got one more of these videos and we'll be done.